It is very nice to be here. My name is Riley Gaines, and quite frankly, I'm mad. Because we're here again. Another mediocre male athlete identifying as a woman, vying to compete on the women's team and turn into a women's record smasher without even trying. I saw firsthand the effects of this at our NCAA championships just a year and a half ago, when we were forced to compete and change in the locker room with Leah, formerly Will Thomas. Just as a reminder, Thomas went from 462nd in the men's category to just a year later winning a national title in the women's category. I saw the tears, and I felt the extreme discomfort in the locker room, and I heard the whispers of anger, because that's what they were whispers of anger and frustration from those girls who, just like myself, just like the swimmers on Roanoke's team, who worked our entire lives to get to that meet. But who considered our feelings, the feelings we felt of betrayal and belittlement and violation, and who considered our privacy and our safety and our dignity and our equal opportunities. You might be wondering, how did we watch the 2021-2022 NCAA women's swimming and diving season unfold and not create policies to prevent this blatant injustice from happening to any other girl or woman again? Because any reasonable, sensible person would be able to see the harm that was being done by this infringement in a matter of seconds. It happened to us, and it's happening again at Roanoke College, because we have weak leaders who are fine with women becoming collateral damage if it means being seen as kind and inclusive and compassionate. What politicians and unelected ideologues and the authority figures at Roanoke College are doing is actively working to undermine Title IX by allowing females to be displaced by males who merely claim the identity of a woman. And in doing so, they're sending a clear message to all girls and women. And it's a message that says we don't matter. A message that says our ability to give consent in areas of undressing is irrelevant, because again, we're being kind and inclusive, and that's much more important. A message that we're not worthy of recognition. A message that we simply exist to validate the feelings and the identity of males. And then a message that says if we don't do so with a big smile on our face, then we're hateful bigots. Allowing males to compete on a women's team is and always will be unfair, and the burden should not be placed on female athletes to convince their schools to accept this scientific reality. But that's where it is being placed. And we as women, we're being silenced. Our universities and institutions are gaslighting and emotionally blackmailing us into making us feel like the oppressors. They want us to feel guilty for demanding fairness. There are so many tears and so many frustrated women in sports right now, and too many aren't visible. We know rules like these aren't fair, and it really only takes common sense to see it. And it shouldn't have to take bravery or courage to speak up for the fair treatment of women and girls. And if leaders cannot find it in themselves to do that, then we need different leaders. Our next generation of girls deserves to see themselves as champions, and we all need to find our voices. And I am so proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with so many brave women in this fight, but especially this team and these amazing girls who we're all gathered around to support. These girls at Roanoke may be Hawks, and I might be a Wildcat, but we are a team, and this team is being heard. I applaud them for their unity, which is something we have not seen yet. The parents, it was truly incredible and inspiring to see the unity. And of course, I applaud their courage in standing up for not just the women's swim team here at Roanoke, but for female athletes of all abilities across the nation. And I think our leaders could learn a thing or two from this team. And so I have the distinct honor and pleasure of introducing the team, and I will let them further introduce themselves. I think we're starting with a few of the captains, and so again, couldn't be more grateful for you guys being here, and I could not be more grateful to stand alongside these girls.
My name is Lily, and I swim for Roanoke College. Common sense should have prevented
us from needing to stand here in front of all of you today, but instead of being silent, we are courageously sharing our story. The women of the Roanoke College swim team, myself included, came back to school this year hoping for a season that could be our best one yet. After a second place finish at our conference meet last year, we were motivated to work hard through the summer so we could win this year. However, that motivation quickly dissipated when we learned about the situation that would soon consume us mentally and emotionally. We were told that a biological male swimmer would be joining our women's team. As our school year began, we were left in the dark. It felt like no matter what we said, no matter what legitimate concerns we brought forward, we were met with the poor advice to remain patient. There were conversations being had by the people at the top who were going to control what would happen to us. I sat in meeting after meeting next to my fellow captains, discussing every possible unknown without getting concrete answers. Some of these meetings lasted over 2 hours, leaving me drained and unable to focus on the things that I needed to get done for school. I spent hours staring at blank sheets of paper, hoping that the math I needed to turn in the next day would write itself. Most nights I gave up on homework and went to bed, or at least I tried to. My lights were off, my curtains were closed, but my mind would not let me sleep. I tried listening to meditations to see if that could calm my nerves, but the feelings of angst never disappeared. I questioned my purpose for swimming, a sport that I've competed in for 15 years now. The reason why I spent all that time in the water became unclear. Why would I even try to swim if I was going to have to race against a biological man? My defeat was written in biology at that point. There was no heart or grit that could overcome the laws of nature. I soon learned that I was not the only one who felt this way. In private conversations with my teammates, I found that we were all experiencing the same anxiety, heartache, and overall fear. When we finally worked up the guts to explain how we felt to the higher-ups at our school, we were told that we had support, but not once was that support exhibited to us in practical terms. We sent emails that got ignored. We had conversations that ended without any advice or solutions given to us, and not a single administrator came to us to ask us how we felt or how we were holding up after the integrity of our sport was ripped away from us. We needed to have advocates, adults and leaders defending that we deserve to be treated fairly. We needed to know that our sports and our hard work were not meaningless to everyone. But instead, we were left to sit with our thoughts, alone and unheard. It should be noted that the school was following policy, the NCAA policy, which tosses women like us aside as an afterthought. Throughout this entire experience, people in power with positions to make change did nothing. Nobody wants to stand up for women. The rule makers have allowed my team to be manipulated, blindsided, and pressured into silently accepting unfair treatment and unfair competition as we headed into our competitive season. We were emotionally blackmailed and asked to carry the responsibility of other people's mental health and well-being at the expense of our own. This has been too great a burden to bear for many of our teammates who have lost hours of sleep, many tears, and the will to train to raise a swimmer who has an advantage in the water that our bodies may never possess. Many of us have shut down from fear and anxiety under the weight of the load that we've been forced to carry exclusively as women. The NCAA has had an opportunity to make sure that girls never go through what Riley, Paula, Kylie, and so many other girls have gone through. USA Swimming had the opportunity to stand up and say that little girls and grown women deserve fair sport as much as the female Olympians that they are choosing to protect. Most women will never get there. We deserve fairness too. These organizations have chosen to ignore and discriminate against women and girls. They have chosen a path that was to be more inclusive while they actively exclude women and girls. This issue has gone on way longer than it should. Let our story be the final one told. I am calling on the NCAA and lawmakers everywhere to stop the suffering and emotional turmoil that is being placed on girls. My name is Lily Mullins, the captain of the Roanoke College swim team, and I stand with female athletes everywhere.
Hello, my name is Gallagher. I am a senior and captain on Roanoke College's women's swim team. I've been a swimmer my entire life. My parents enrolled me in a learn to swim program as an infant, and I've been swimming ever since. My first competition was at the age of 5, and now at almost 21 years old, I see my journey coming to a close. This is my senior year, my final year to practice, race, and celebrate with teammates that I now consider to be some of my best friends. Swimming is more than just a sport for me. It is a part of who I am. It has given me discipline, the ability to multitask, a great work ethic, a healthy lifestyle, and some of the very best people to call friends. I never expected to be blindsided by a teammate from the men's team wanting to compete directly against me and my teammates on the women's team. When the news broke, I was stunned, as were most of the women on the team. I could not eat, could not sleep, and spent a lot of time dealing with anxiety, concerned with how this was going to get resolved. World Aquatics policy protects the Olympians. Where is the NCAA and USA swimming? Why are they not protecting the rest of us? Why do women who don't make an Olympic team not count among women who deserve a fair competition? Over the course of the following weeks, we were expected to attend our classes and learn, attend practices and perform well, and attend no less than one meeting 6 days a week to discuss the situation. During these weeks, not a day went by that I did not feel physically ill. It was hard to even function because every moment I had was being consumed with what I was supposed to accept as a new normal, a normal that I never agreed to be a part of. For the first time, I considered quitting something I had loved doing my whole life. I wanted to leave the school I refer to as my second home. It took me a little while, but I came to the realization, this is not me. I am not the problem. Throughout the last month, the women's team and I had felt manipulated, helpless, angry, confused, upset, guilted, and most importantly, unheard. The early meetings that I attended were not productive. We listened, we spoke, and then quickly learned it was not okay to speak our mind. We were somehow wrong in our feelings. After those meetings, I would feel as though my words were manipulated, my feelings cast aside, and I believed that my voice had made no difference. Even worse, the voice of almost every single woman on my team did not matter because there was only one person who did. We were silenced. Where was our right to be considered? Where was our right to be seen as valuable? And most importantly, where was our right to compete fairly? How many young women will have to be beaten out by a male or even have to watch their friends beaten out before enough is enough? It is my wish for women to have fair competition, to have their voices heard, and to be protected by Title IX, the NCAA, and the schools, clubs, and countries they compete for. I will continue to fight for my friends, my family, and the little girl that is learning to swim right now. All female athletes need to be protected at every age and every level. This is unfair and it needs to be stopped. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Pearson, and I'm a captain of the Roanoke College swim team alongside Lily Mullins and Bailey Gallagher. Swimming has been one of the most important parts of my life since I was tossed into the pool at only 8 years old. This sport ultimately defines who I am and has gifted me with endless challenges, opportunities, close friends, and an overall passion for doing what I love. I have felt many feelings throughout my years of swimming, such as determination, joy, disappointment, nervousness, admiration, and excitement. But when I was told that a biological male would be swimming on the women's swim team, all of my feelings turned into fear. Last year, our women's swim team ended their remarkable season with a second-place finish in the ODAC conference. This was attainable due to the hard work, motivation, and grit we all collectively put in season long. We were approaching this year hoping to achieve what we previously accomplished and even more. But when the team was informed of the issue that would end up fully consuming us, all these motivational factors went right down the drain. Our experience was an emotional roller coaster that I never want any young girl or woman to ever go on or deal with. That is why I'm standing here today. Multiple teammates, even I, have said how these last 5 weeks have, quote, felt like years. The team was put through demoralizing and exhausting meetings day after day for the result to be that we were not heard. We turned helpless. Every time we tried to speak up about our feelings, we were either shoved aside or expected to deal with all of our concerns ourselves. We felt completely ignored by our school, the place that is supposed to be our home away from home, allowed our feelings and comfortability to be neglected. We were instructed at one point to have a meeting to attempt to peacefully discuss our feelings about the issue with everyone present. The meeting time, as well as almost every decision made throughout this long, stressful process, was set and determined by the male athlete who wanted to join our team. When the meeting time was chosen, I was going to be the only captain fully present at this meeting due to travel commitments of the other captains. I voiced my concerns multiple times and asked if we could postpone the meeting a day or two so all captains could be there. I wanted to make sure that our captaincy was complete so we could stand for our team together in such an intimidating environment. My feelings, our team's feelings, and comfort were blatantly ignored, and only one athlete was prioritized. I felt unheard and unseen. Our comfort was undervalued and discarded. We tried numerous times to ask the school for support, but each and every time we were told to deal with it ourselves or told nothing at all. The school refused to send out any information to our parents, and we were informed that even if our entire women's team decided to stand together and not swim, and emphasize the unfairness that was happening, our coach would be allowed to have a one-athlete swim team. A one-person swim team. That information alone was the most discouraging and disheartening of all. Our school was prioritizing one individual swimmer over 17 women whose only request was fairness.
It was clear that the only way we would ever be heard was if we stood up. Enough was enough. The emotional drag had gone on way too long, and it was time to advocate for ourselves, which is why we are all standing before you today. The educational institution that should be protecting our Title IX rights stayed silent. Our government is not protecting women. The NCAA is not protecting women. They had a legal obligation to protect fair athletic opportunities for our female athletes, but instead, we were forced to practice and race against a biological male who removes fair sport for all of us. I'm standing up here today to ask these educational institutions to push back against the NCAA. I also call out to the NCAA itself, along with USA Swimming, to put back the fairness in all sports that women have worked so hard to get to where they have become. No athlete, coach, or school should have to go through what we went through. This needs to stop now. And while our own situation was at last resolved, that does not mean that our story, our voices, or our experience should be silenced and shouldn't make change for other girls and women. If our courage to speak out helps even one little girl or woman athlete, it is so beyond worth it. Our situation has given us an opportunity. Thank you to Riley, Paula, and Icons for hearing us and allowing us to share our story. I will forever be grateful for the amplitude of support of every woman here today. The courageous women who have fought these battles and are still fighting for others. The women who did not sit down, who did not give up, and instead let their voices be heard. Thank you.
My name is Adriana Lam, and I'm a sophomore on the women's swim team. I started on a competitive year-round swim team when I was 14. I started late in the sport, but that doesn't mean I love it any less or that I should have to accept being treated as if my participation isn't important enough to warrant fair sports. I am grateful for these amazing women who surround me, and we all want what is best for the sport and the future of women and girls in sports. That is why I'm here today. I believe that fairness in the sport can be achieved if policies can be put in place across the board to protect women and girls at every level. What happened to us was wrong. We should never have had to go through this. We were told to set aside our feelings, our competition, and our team because it would be the nice thing to do. Roanoke College is a great school, but every school is in a terrible position where they're having to choose to tell their female athletes to step aside. The NCAA is demanding that athletic departments and presidents cannot defend the right of their female students. Through these past 4 weeks, it has felt as if there was no concern for the mental health and well-being of me or my teammates. We have felt as if we do not deserve to be heard or cared about. No one on any side of this discussion about women's sports should have to go through what we went through. I'm asking for the NCAA, USA Swimming, and our state and federal government to step up and make sure policies do not put women, girls, men, schools, and families in a position where they have to cast aside the fair treatment of women. No female athlete should have to ask their administration teams for fairness or question if they have a voice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Suanna, and I'm a junior on the swim team. I started swimming competitively when I was 7 years old. Of the many sports I have tried, swimming has always been my favorite, and going to swim practice has always been something that I look forward to doing. It has given me so much in exchange for my time and hard work. However, this year is the first year in my life where it has been emotionally draining and painful. Knowing that biological men are allowed to compete in women's sports has been the most disheartening experience of my life. As an 11 and 12-year-old swimmer, I was much, much smaller than all the other swimmers my age. However, I knew that eventually I would grow, and then just like everyone else, I would be able to catch up. I knew that my effort would pay off. I continued to work hard and have improved more than I ever thought was possible. Now, I and many other women are faced with the prospect of having to compete against someone who has advantages from male development that we, as women, will never have access to. Someone who does not have to work from the same biology that makes us female. In this case, there is no fair comparison, no level playing field. It is demoralizing and has taken away the joy and motivation. It's so painful to consider that many of us were looking for ways to get out. I began running track and cross country because I did not know if I could remain motivated enough to stay on the swim team. I also quietly rearranged my academic schedule to put me on track to graduate early so that I wouldn't have to face this for as long. I have 2 younger sisters who, like me, are both multi-sport athletes. I never want them to have to experience this heartache. The thought of having to compete against a biological man is a message that women aren't worthy, that we don't actually matter. I want my sisters to learn that if they work hard and dedicate themselves to something, they can achieve their goals and that their efforts are respected. It doesn't matter that they were born girls, they can still have the joys of sports. One of the biggest lessons I have learned from sports is that what I can accomplish, what I dedicate myself to, will be recognized. And the same is true for other girls. Now, I worry that lesson is being stolen. The younger girls won't have the same chance to learn it and experience these joys. Women's sports are separate from men's sports for a reason. We are not the same, but we both deserve to be equally respected. I'm asking for the NCAA to stop hurting women. I'm asking for USA Swimming to consider that every girl who wants to swim deserves fair competition, not just the Olympians. I'm asking for my state to pass legislation that protects our girls, and I'm asking for the federal government to recognize us as well. We deserve fair sports. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Katie Blankenship, and I'm a sophomore on the Roanoke College women's swim team. I began swimming at the age of 5, joining my first competitive team at the age of 7. When deciding what sport to continue, I chose the sport that brought me the most joy, swimming. I've always known that if I worked hard, then I would be able to achieve any goal I set for myself in the swimming world or not. I was constantly chasing those goals and felt satisfied with my achievements. However, learning that men were allowed to compete in women's sports made these goals, my goals, feel small and insignificant. Knowing there was nothing I could do within the pool to change the outcomes of this was disheartening and changed the entire face of women's sports. Swimming felt pointless, as if the goals I achieved paled in comparison to the males who would dominate no matter how hard I tried. Seeing this firsthand only amplified this unrelenting feeling of defeat. I do not want any other woman to feel this way, as women's sports should be empowering and positive, not confidence-shattering and stressful. Women's sports are for women and should stay that way. The NCAA needs to change their policies now. Please join us in speaking out. We are here today to call upon people in positions of leadership in schools, government, and sports policy to make sure no other woman or young girl believes her chance to play doesn't matter. Her chance matters, just like mine, just like other female athletes. Thank you.
My name is Cara, and I am a sophomore on the Roanoke College women's swim team. It is absurd to me that the biological differences between males and females is something that has to be proven or shown, but here we are. It is sad to me that the organizations put in place to protect the integrity of my sport are failing to protect women. The NCAA and USA Swimming have not just failed me, they have also failed male athletes, our coaches, and our schools, because none of us should have ever been put in this situation. It should never have been an option for a man to swim with females. And while this issue is no longer a direct threat to my team, if I can save even one women's team from going through what we have been put through, it is worth it for me to be up here. This experience had us feeling helpless, confused, and gaslit. The emotional turmoil and frustration tested our team's previously strong bonds. We felt the weight of being told someone else's mental health was our burden and responsibility to carry. It was too heavy of a load. What was asked of us was not just unfair, it was cruel. It is cruel to the women on our team and to all the women's teams we would compete against. We felt the joy being taken from our sport, and we felt exhausted from the toll of mandatory meetings night after night where we were talking and talking, but not feeling heard and not making a difference. That is why I am here today. I do believe there is a silver lining in all this, and that I learned something that many people never do. I learned that you can't wait for others to stand up for you. We thought the NCAA or USA Swimming would stand for us. We thought people in positions of leadership would know how to do the right things. But we've learned if we want to make a difference, we have to advocate and stand up for ourselves. Our captains have had to work much harder than a captain should ever be expected to work. But thanks to them and our team bond, we resisted the temptation to fight with each other and decided to fight together for our right to fair competition, something we should not have to do. We are fighting today, not just for ourselves, but for generations of women now and in the future who will face this unfairness if we don't win. They deserve a change. They deserve to be protected against biological males in their locker room and in their races. We have also learned that it's possible to respect others' choices, but also demand fairness and respect as women. This is about the fact that women cannot continue to live in fear and hide behind what might happen if we speak out. So here I am, speaking up and standing with Riley Gaines in the fight to make a change for the women and girls who will come after me. We are calling on the NCAA to protect female athletes and grant us fair sports in every sport. We are calling on USA Swimming to recognize that girls at every level deserve to know they are valuable enough to be given a fair race. And we are calling on our state and federal representatives to make sure Virginia is a state where female athletes are respected enough to have fair sports. Thank you.
My name is Hallie Sharp. I'm a 19-year-old student athlete at Roanoke College, competing for the women's swim team. I began swimming at the age of 7 and have loved the sport ever since. But the situation which has impacted our team has been demotivating and demoralizing to me as an athlete and as a woman. While the immediate situation with our team is resolved, what we have gone through should not be brushed under the rug or go unheard. We are here to speak out and prevent future athletes from experiencing what we went through. We do not want to see girls walking away from sports due to males competing as women and girls. The lasting impact of the NCAA not acting is leaving a legacy of discrimination and hurt for women. We are here today asking the NCAA and USA Swimming to take a stand for women's sports. We need our lawmakers to recognize female athletes. No males should be competing against females at any level. They have advantages that no amount of training can match. To disregard these advantages in the name of inclusion is excluding females, excluding them from opportunities to learn, from teams, from events, from relays, from podiums, record books, and from joy. No girl should face what we have faced, and no girl should have to sit out, miss her accomplishments, or believe her sports aren't important enough for fair rules because there had to be a priority made for a male. We are simply asking that the NCAA and USA Swimming stand with women in the original premise of Title IX. We should be able to know that we are competing on a fair field with protection to prevent males from competing on our teams and being in our locker rooms. When no girl should have to face this. We should not be used in order to make others feel better when the cost is so damaging to us. I'm asking our lawmakers and leaders to please pass rules and legislation to stop this from continuing. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Bradman. I'm a sophomore at Roanoke College and I am a part of the women's swim team. Swimming has always been an extremely important part of my life. It's what I've known since I was 8 years old. I fell in love with the community, the competition, and the sport in general. Just like every other swimmer on this team, I've put in hundreds of hours a year training, waking up at 4 a.m. for practices, sacrificing my social life and countless holidays. Not only that, my family and parents sacrificed their mornings to drive me to practices, lost holidays to drive and watch me race during travel meets, and dedicated their time to ensure I had everything I need to love and excel in the sport. But let me share with you how easily that can all just be thrown to the side. Before I begin, I want to reiterate that sports are for everyone, but they need to be played fairly. It can't be seen as an ethical problem or an attack for women to ask for fairness. I'd also like to remind everyone that this is bigger than our swim team. This matter affects all athletes across the country in every sport. We are fighting for the bigger cause, and Roanoke College has shown us why it's so important that we push for this change. Everyone knows what it's like to be ignored. No matter the situation, it does not make you feel good. Now, think of how you would feel if your school, your college, the people who are supposed to protect you as a student athlete, blatantly ignored the struggles of their female athletes and communicated that their opportunities in their athletic career may be taken away from them to support a single person. And to be clear, this is not exaggeration when I say they did not care if our opportunities were taken away. As they told our coach, it does not matter if you have one swimmer left or a full women's team, he would still have a job, with disregard to us. The idea that we didn't matter, that our administration didn't care enough to support and stand with us, was proven out as we endured the continual back and forth when a biological male athlete wanted to join our women's team. Our women's team was fully dismissed and ignored by the Roanoke College administration. While, of course, we empathize with anyone who's struggling and we understand the love of the sport, we saw the mental and physical drain this process took on everyone involved. It's not healthy or good for anyone. Now, we have been told we got what we wanted and to leave it alone. This is not acceptable after the emotional, physical, and social turmoil we have all faced. We have been made to feel like wanting fair sports was our fault. We have been shown how little the NCAA thinks of us. No one should have to go through this. No young girl should be forced to defend that women deserve to be treated fairly. No girl should be told they are a fair sacrifice. Every person, especially athletes, have a goal that they are working towards that requires self-sacrifice. Do you know how difficult it was for the women's team to simply just jump in a cold pool at the crack of dawn and train for a goal that had become unattainable? We as a whole, athletes, coaches, administrators, NCAA leaders, as well as USA Swimming, need to work together to create a safe and fair environment for student athletes of all ages. We cannot create change without support from everyone, and we encourage women, men, young kids, and adults from all communities to speak and push for fair change. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Quinn. I'm a sophomore on the women's Roanoke College swim team. Swimming has been my life since 5th grade. I've worked so hard over the years to get to where I am today, along with every woman standing here with me today. I love sports, and I feel strongly that sports need to be for everyone, but it has to be based on fairness. During this past month, every minute, hour, and year I have dedicated of my life swimming has felt almost worthless. When we were told that a biological male athlete would be joining my little D3 women's college swim team, I could barely process what was going on. I didn't know what to expect, how to feel, or how to react. After the initial brief discussion, the meetings began. It was such a quick turnaround that my brain couldn't seem to process it so quickly. Meeting after meeting, basically being told the same thing. There's nothing we can really do. It felt like the school had us tied to a string, pulling us back and forth, telling us one thing, but doing something else. A month of this tugging back and forth went by. Once it all ended, we were told, move on, and we got what we wanted. That made my heart sink. After all the emotion and mental turmoil we were all put through, they had told us to just move on, it's over. After a month of being ignored and being left in the dark. We couldn't move on. We didn't get what we wanted. We want fairness for all, everyone, every student athlete. This not only affected Roanoke College as a team, but also each one of us individually. Personally, when I came into the team, I had a goal, to get that Roanoke College record board. The record has been in striking distance and giving me something to be excited to work for. When I heard I would be faced with competition against an athlete with advantage I could never measure up to, I immediately thought of this goal and how it became completely unattainable. The difference between the men's times and women's times are enormous, and it is not because women don't work hard enough. There is a huge gap between comparatively competitive men and women swimmers in the D3 competition. This is clearly unfair to not just our women's swim team, but all women's swim teams in our division, all women's swim teams in USA Swimming, and in NCAA. I want to call on the NCAA and the leaders of sport and government everywhere to make sure women and girls are valued and have access to fair competition. Thank you.
Next up, we have a representative on behalf of the parents of these amazing female athletes. I'd like to welcome Katie Mullins.
Well, hello. And thank you all for allowing me to speak on behalf of the parents of Roanoke College swim team and share some of our perspective as we have watched our daughters face this very painful experience. When we look at our girls, and we think back to what athletics was supposed to teach them, We expected our girls to learn things like time management, coachability, the benefits of hard work, learning to win with humility and lose with dignity. And I'm certain we can close our eyes and have the image of that little girl with bright-eyed, big smile, excited to share with us what they did at practice, build their dreams, and talk about what events they were going to swim that weekend. But never in our wildest dreams did we ever imagine that swimming and sports would teach those girls to be quiet, that they would have to compete with men, and to stifle all their excitement and all their hopes and dreams for the benefit of a man. In the name of inclusion, we as a nation have remained silent for way too long while our girls have to pay the price. This summer, my daughter was getting ready to leave for college, and as a captain of the team, she was making nameplates for the girls. She made one for someone that used to be on the men's team, and I pointed at it and I said, what's this? My daughter replied to me, I don't know what's gonna happen. I can only hope that someone at the school where the NCAA recognizes the complete unfairness that this is going to bring. The irony in her statement is that anyone with a shred of common sense knows that it is not fair for male athletes to compete against women. We all watched Leah Thomas. We believe the rules have been righted. Well, they haven't. The NCAA continues to allow men to compete against women. USA Swimming believes that only the most elite women in the U.S. deserve fair sport at the Olympics. The NCAA USA Swimming have abandoned our coaches and our girls, leaving them in an impossible situation. Our girls faced the same threats that we hear everywhere when women are told they shouldn't speak up. They were told they would be labeled and faced with academic and professional repercussions. They were told to be quiet. Once it was clear that no one was advocating for them, our girls on the team started looking for ways to escape. They looked for places to transfer. Some rearranged their schedules to graduate early in order just to get away. Others considered simply quitting. They were questioning, is this worth it? Do I really want to put myself in this situation? If I swim on a team with a male swimmer, am I showing support for other women to face this again? Am I leaving my morals and my conscience behind? When you choose to swim at a D3 college, it's not because you were granted a big scholarship. You're there for the love of your sport, and you're there for the love of your team. My daughter and our daughters together found something special at Roanoke College in that swim program. The team, the coaches, the people, it was a welcoming and wonderful place to be. So I understood how bad it must have been for my daughter when she looked at me and told me that I hate being here. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be here. I don't want to put up with this. I don't want to have to look at a guy in a girl's suit at practice. I don't want to walk out onto a pool deck and have other teams and people look at me as if I support this lie. I don't think I can do it. Well, she wasn't alone. I spent more hours on the phone with my daughter in the first month of college this year than I did in the entire first 2 years that she was at school. I called her through FaceTime to make sure she knew that she was supported and I could see her. And there were always other girls in the room, all sharing similar thoughts. Thoughts like, I feel so defeated. The fool I was to come here and think that I could contribute to this team. Am I nothing? No one in the conference is going to want to swim against us. Why won't anyone help us? And why does anyone at all think that this is fair? To think that having a man on a women's swim team does not affect young women is to bury our heads in the sand and ignore the ugly truth. The hell these girls went through has affected them physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. My daughter shared with me that at one point she was so upset and so nervous after having a discussion with some of her teammates that she became physically ill. So anxious and so nervous, she threw up so violently that the contents of her stomach did not just come out her mouth, but through her nose and hit the back of the bathroom wall. That is the level of aggressive, emotional, physical turmoil that it took on her. She knew full well what she was saying was honest, was real emotion, and it was a legitimate concern. But she also knew that the NCAA and the school would do nothing to protect them. A team meeting was once called for the girls to hear from the man who chose to swim on their team, where they were emotionally blackmailed. They were made to sit and listen quietly, while the man making the plea to swim on their team spoke of suicide in order to be included. He spoke of hate being thrusted toward him when they were the ones that were being disregarded as nothing and unimportant. They were being convinced that they must prioritize this man over their own accomplishments and fair treatment. Bouts of insomnia, depression, feeling defeated, worthlessness, and guilt followed, all because they wanted a fair playing field in which to compete, as if it were their fault. I barely recognized my daughter after a couple weeks at school. She lost noticeable amounts of weight, her eyes were dark, her cheeks were hollow, but worse, her posture had changed. She had hung her head low, her shoulders were slouched. She looked at her feet. This was not the kid that I sent to Roanoke College. This was a defeated young lady who had something stolen from her. Her passion for a sport that she loved was eviscerated. The helplessness was crushing. She was not able to concentrate on her studies. The injustice occupied every thought and every free moment. And it wasn't just the girls who weren't able to sleep. Their families and anyone who loved them were anxious and struggling because they too felt helpless and powerless to say or do anything. We wrote emails in the school, it was silent. We were ignored. We wrote letters, researched NCAA rulings, USA swimming rules, read court cases, searched for answers on how we could help her girls. We were enraged that no one would respond. We stumbled upon icons where we found out we were not the only ones who had been through this. Our girls were not the only girls suffering at the expense of men and boys wishing to compete on their team. We learned that this is a much bigger issue than just Roanoke College, and it's happening at many sports at many different levels. My daughter spent much of the summer working as a lifeguard and a coach for several kids, many of them little girls. And she told me that she would not be able to sleep if someday those girls, or even perhaps her own daughter, someday would have to face this. We must all find the courage to stand up for our daughters, and I am incredibly proud of her and these girls for being able to do so. And this is what brings us here today, a love of a sport and a hope to keep it fair and honest for our girls. Young women must know that they can have a safe, fair, and equal playing field. They must know that their dreams and hard work are not dismissible simply because they are girls. We need to call on the NCAA and the leaders of USA Swimming and the leaders at the U.S. Olympic Committee, and importantly, our legislators and representatives to do the right thing. Acknowledge common sense and acknowledge that women deserve to be treated fairly. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Paulston.
Hi everyone. First, can we just give a big round of applause to the parents and academics? You guys are awesome. I know that you guys are come from far, far away. I chatted with some of you guys earlier, and so just look at the dedication. Look at the parents. Their kids are technically adults, but they're still parents, and that's just something I love seeing, and I'm just so proud of you guys. So just thank you. For me, it means a lot to me to see that. So my name is Paulston. For those of you who do not know who I am, I was a member of the University of Pennsylvania women's swim team, and I too was teammates with a male athlete that many of you guys know all too well, that went by the name of Leah Thomas. And when I first heard this story, I was immediately heartbroken because Kim Jones called me on the phone and told me that the girls were told everything that I had heard 2 years ago when this happened to me in the fall of 2021. The girls were told that this is the right thing to do, this is inclusive. My university also made us believe that we were isolated, that we were alone. And I had the same feelings many of these girls did. I felt completely alone. I even felt physically ill. Those descriptions of being ill when this was going on, and I had started talking to people in my life about how this made me feel. I developed a fever. I had flu-like symptoms for 2 days, and it wasn't COVID. And I know that feeling, and I know feeling like you're hopeless and there's nothing you can do. And I was right there with you guys. And it's crazy to see that this is happening again. I mean, I've tried my best to share my story and help prevent this from happening to anyone else, but obviously we're still here. And you guys have to stand here because people like the NCAA and the lawmakers in charge have failed us. And it is their responsibility to fix this, and this is why you guys are here. Some of you taking time away from your busy day and classes to stand up for what should be done by people in power. And it's honorable that you guys are here, but it's so challenging to process this. And like Riley was saying, I'm angry that we're going through this. I'm upset. But I am really proud of these girls. So I will say that myself, I did not have this strong team that stood together. I knew many of my teammates agreed with my opinions, but they weren't willing to stand together and do what you guys have done. And people need to see that this is really unique. It shouldn't be, and I know that now that you've done this, so many girls who are going through this are going to be able to stand together as a team, but you are really setting the stage for this. You are leaders, you're doing the right thing, and you're setting up other girls to not have to go through this, because they can point to you guys and say, the Roanoke swim team did it, so can we. And that is so powerful, and if you ever doubt for a moment that you're on the wrong side of this, you're not. You are a leader, and you will be on the right side of history, because standing up for girls and standing with women and protecting girls' sports and girls' spaces is never the wrong thing. So thank you guys so much for doing this. I support you wholeheartedly. I'm in awe. And frankly, I wish I had swam with you guys and had a supported team. Thank you again for everything. Thank you to the parents, and let's really put pressure on these people in power. I know that the governor of Virginia stands with you girls. I know he's very supportive, but we need more people to do this. We need USA Swimming to come in and say no. No, a man cannot join a women's swim team. Does it sound crazy to say that we're even here having this conversation? But we will get there, and we must count on them to do the right thing. So continue to apply pressure, continue to use your voices, and also continue to encourage other girls going through the same thing to do the same. Thank you.
Before I read my statement, on behalf of the coalition of women's organizations who are here supporting these incredible women, we have received a statement from the Attorney General, Jason Miyares. I'd like to read it. I stand with female athletes at Roanoke College and all across Virginia who are standing up for women's sports. Biology is real. The differences between male and female are real, especially in sports. That's why we have Title IX, to ensure that women have the same opportunities as men to reap the benefits of sports like competition, character development, leadership, and higher education scholarships. It's taken decades of hard work to level the playing field between the sexes, but we've made tremendous progress in providing women equal access to these opportunities. We cannot allow the Biden administration and its radical allies on the left and in higher education to roll back that progress in the name of false equity. Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Marcia Smith and I'm the co-founder of Icons. I was also a swimmer. I won my first swim race in Fairfax, Virginia. I hold 6 Virginia high school state swim titles and won an NCAA title as a scholarship swimmer. Over 40 of my fellow teammates from the University of Arizona delivered a letter to the NCAA in March of last year because we naively believed they didn't understand that allowing men access to women's awards, records, and scholarship would irrevocably destroy our sport as we knew it. We were dismissed. No response to this day. Just like Reka George, a few miles away at Virginia Tech, a swimmer who failed to qualify for her last 500 freestyle championship final, shut out by Leah Thomas, and whose letter to the NCAA went completely ignored. What all of us have seen since is the NCAA consistently reinforcing their commitment to men's preferences and desires in the women's category. What we have heard is that the NCAA is devoted to discriminating against its female athletes, as more and more men are quietly placed on women's teams across the country. They are not caught off guard like we once believed. They are not scrambling to find a solution to ensure the integrity and future of women's athletics. The NCAA is married to making a mockery of women in collegiate sports. The law must force them now, against their will, to do what is right for women. Earlier this year, I testified in Richmond in support of the Fairness in Female Sports Act, which failed to pass into law because legislators needed to see women and girls in Virginia harmed before they would consider protecting them. These legislators demanded girls be made sacrifices to endure the psychological manipulation, unfair treatment, and emotional distress of being told their opportunities come second to men's. Well, these women have now bared the brunt of the harms that legislators demanded they endure before they were willing to act. They have now stood on a stage in front of the world and told you about the emotional damage done to them. Is this enough? Will you act now? These incredible, courageous, and inspiring young women have done what no team has done before and stood together, unified, asking policymakers and legislators to hold up the mantle of their responsibility and lead. Now it's time to fulfill your duty and uphold their right to equal opportunities today. Thank you. Next, I'd like to introduce Adriana Lam.
First off, I want to personally say thank you to you guys for unifying as a team. I'm a former college athlete and a current coach, and seeing a team come together for one united cause is so inspiring. So thank you guys. So as I just mentioned, my name is Adriana Lam. I'm a former collegiate athlete, now coach, and I'm a director at Independent Women's Forum. Independent Women's Forum is the leading mainstream women organization advancing policies that actually help advance freedom and well-being. I'm also here representing Independent Women's Network, which is our grassroots membership made of more than 40,000 women across the nation, and they share their concerns about how women and girls are being erased and put at risk by the imposition of radical gender ideology. Our network chapters spread across the country, including several chapters here in the state of Virginia. Independent Women's Forum champions these girls standing before you. We applaud Roanoke Women's Swim Team for their boldly standing up for women and girls' rights, our dignity and our respects, and also for common sense. And let's be clear, that's what this is about. This is about women's equality. This is about women having the right to compete and succeed on a level playing field. This is about preserving a woman's right to have privacy and safe spaces in their locker rooms and their bathrooms. And this is about the right of women to speak their mind. What this isn't about is whether trans-identifying individuals should be treated with respect and kindness. Of course they should be. No one is arguing against that, but we're sick and tired of the suggestion that treating people with kindness requires gutting of women's rights. This is the real war on women. This Roanoke swim team was gaslit into allowing a biological man to join their team. That spot could have gone to another biological female. Never mind that as a man, he has an obvious and irreversible physical advantages. But what is even worse is that these brave women were told that they said their piece and to move on. Were the feelings of one man validated over their reaction, the voices, and the feelings of discomfort from these girls? The answer is yes, and that is discrimination in its worst form. Is this what it's really come to? Is this the message that universities are trying to send young women across our nation? That they need to put their heads down, shut up, and not object to what they're being pushed aside and being abused? Independent Women's Forum is grateful that the Roanoke women's team joined together, collectively, as a unit, and said that they're not going to take it. We're proud to back you, champion your message, and stand with you. We hope every other women's team out there that is right now being told by coaches and administrators that they need to be nice and swallow their feelings and stay silent, that they will be inspired by these women to speak up too. Because this is a movement, ladies. This is our time to reclaim our opportunities, our space. This is a time to stand with women, since together we can and we will win. The NCAA needs to put a stop to this nonsense now. Allowing a single male to take a roster spot or a lane in a pool or a place on a podium from a female athlete is discrimination, and it is unlawful. Instead of passing the buck, Charlie Baker and the NCAA should say the buck stops here, establishing NCAA guidelines that no female collegiate athlete will ever have to endure this again. On behalf of everyone at Independent Women's Forum, Independent Women's Network, we thank you for carrying the torch, for being a unified voice standing up for the rights of America's women and girls so that no other female has to go through what you have. And it's far past time the NCAA and its new president, Charlie Baker, change the NCAA guidelines so that no female athlete has to endure what you did. Thank you, ladies.
Next, I'd like to introduce Cara.
Good afternoon. My name is Cara, and I'm the president of the U.S. chapter of Women's Declaration International. And I could not be more proud to stand in support of these brave athletes and their families here today. I just want to break from my notes to say I have been working really hard to get men out of women's spaces in sports since 2014, and I just could not help but tear up when you walked on this stage. Thank you so much. Women's Declaration International is grounded in the principles of radical feminism and works to advance the Declaration on women's sex-based rights throughout law and society in the U.S. and all over the world. The Declaration reaffirms women's sex-based rights, including the elimination of all forms of violence against women and girls that result from the replacement of the category of sex with that of so-called gender identity. Article 7 of the Declaration reaffirms women's rights to the same opportunities as men to participate actively in sports and education. We stand with these athletes in proclaiming that fairness in sport includes opportunities for women and girls to participate in sports and physical education on a single-sex basis, and that the entry of boys and men who claim to have so-called female gender identities into teams, competitions, facilities, or changing rooms that have been set aside for women and girls should be prohibited as a form of sex discrimination. As more and more women and girls say no to men and boys in our spaces in sports, as more and more women and girls take the courageous stand these athletes have taken today, we will take back what has been stolen from us at the altar of so-called gender identity. To the athletes who are standing up today and to their families, well done. I know it isn't easy to do what you're doing, and I am in awe of your bravery. Courage calls to courage, and what you are doing today will inspire many female athletes to take a similar stand in the future. I am so proud to stand with you and with all the organizations on this stage today. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Margot Heffernan.
My name is Margot Heffernan, and I represent the Women's Liberation Front, or WOLF, which is a 501c3 organization that restores, protects, and advances the rights of women and girls using legal argument, policy advocacy, and public education. Today, women are in an unfathomable situation. Women are being forced to compete with men across the U.S. and the world by forces pushing gender ideology. We heard the concern of women and girls on this, and we are fighting for their sex-based rights. We hear the women with us today, the brave members of the Roanoke College women's swim team, who are worried that because they are a Division III team, no one will care that their rights are being violated. Well, we at the Women's Liberation Front care deeply. We are here and we are proud to stand with the women of Roanoke College, these incredible female athletes, and support them in standing up for their rights. Gender ideologues want us to believe that when a man says he's a woman, we must accept that his feelings are more important than women's dreams, training, discipline, and competitive spirit. He asks us all to superimpose his feelings over women's rights and indeed over material reality itself. We at Wolf say no, unequivocally no. When humans compete in sports, we compete with our bodies, not our ideologies. Gender ideologues demand we disadvantage women by forcing them to pretend a man is a woman too, and utterly ignore the physical reality that on the sports field, a reality that everyone can see, males are definitely not the same as females. In light of this, Wolf, an independent women's voice, developed the Women's Bill of Rights. This model legislation clearly states exactly what a woman is and why women deserve single-sex spaces and opportunities. 4 states have signed this model legislation into law, and we anticipate that several more will sign on in the coming year. We call on Governor Youngkin and the Virginia legislature to step up and defend the rights of women and girls, like the women here today, by passing the Women's Bill of Rights. Look at the women here today, being told to ignore reality. See the madness being demanded of them. We at Wolf stand with these brave women to defend their sex-based rights. We at Wolf will always have their backs. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce Teresa Pregnell.
Wow, what an honor to stand on the stage with you girls. I'm inspired. Thank you for doing the right thing. Well, my name is Teresa Pregnell. I'm State Director for Concerned Women for America of Virginia, and we are the largest public policy women's organization in our nation and in our Commonwealth. Today, we stand in solidarity with the Roanoke College female swim team. We believe in what you've done. And I want to add that we are going to be in Richmond supporting legislation, good legislation, for a women's sports bill to protect you, to protect the women that are coming up behind you. But all female athletes, they desire fair competition and equality. Forcing these ladies to stand up for their civil rights and threatening them to accept a biological male who identifies as a woman on their team is anti-woman and discriminatory. Concerned Women for America is not alone in defending their rights. Since 2020, 23 states have enacted laws to protect female athletes from unfair competition in states that have enacted laws. This wave of legislation, in part, is due to the Biden administration and the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, that has been spoken of often from here, doubling down on redefining the meaning of sex under Title IX as gender identity, not biological reality, and prioritizing inclusion of trans-identifying male athletes over the rights of female athletes in women's sports. Concerned Women for America of Virginia urges Roanoke College and our elected officials in the Commonwealth to stand up and protect its female athletes who have trained and worked hard to excel in their sport, expecting them at any time to give up their rights to a female-only team and their equal athletic opportunities under Title IX is unjust and discriminatory. It is intolerable that this team has had to face the emotional blackmail and was expected to compromise their unique dignity as female athletes and as women. The NCAA has no right telling Roanoke College or the Commonwealth of Virginia to turn its back on protecting female athletes and its obligations under Title IX. By upholding female-only sports teams, Roanoke College can stand in solidarity with women and send a message to the NCAA and all its members' institutions to do the following: preserve women's sports for collegiate athletes in Virginia and across the nation. Ensure fairness in women's sports in Virginia and across all athletic conferences and divisions, and support the biological facts and basic civil rights for women in Virginia and across America. Concerned Women for America of Virginia stands behind you, Roanoke College swimmers.
Our last speaker today is Hallie Bradley.
Hi, my name is Hallie Bradley. I'm currently a collegiate athlete here in the state of Virginia. Thank you to Icons and the swim team at Roanoke College for having me here today. I'm so proud of you all. I'm an ambassador for Young Women for America, which is a project of Concerned Women for America, the nation's largest public policy women's organization. Back in January, I testified at the Virginia State Capitol alongside Riley Gaines and other female athletes in favor of the Save Women's Sports Bill, which unfortunately failed to become law. It's demoralizing to hear of a male once again trying to compete on a female team. Athletes work so hard in their sports, hours upon hours, years upon years, striving to place at championships, win medals, and earn spots on collegiate teams. There is a unique and biological difference between males and females. For example, in my sport of figure skating, lower body power output and muscular strength plays a significant role in our ability to skate faster and jump higher. According to a journal study, women athletes are known to be less strong and powerful than equally trained men. Muscle strength of women indeed is typically reported in the range of 40 to 75% of that of men. It is a scientific fact that men and women are created differently. And everything about how our sports are structured recognizes the uniqueness of men and women. That is what Title IX intended and what the NCAA has unilaterally taken away from women. In addition, the U.S. figure skating gender policy allows males who self-identify as women to compete on a female teams. This is disgraceful. No feeling can dispute this simple, scientific, and biological fact. It is fundamental truth that God created two distinct sexes, male and female. And as a female athlete here in Virginia, the importance and significance of keeping girls' sports for girls only is extremely important to me. Today, I stand with these female swimmers from Roanoke College who have faced something they should never have to face: the rights as women being denied. I stand here for all female athletes across this great state and this country to say that girls' sports are for girls only. I call on Virginia elected officials to join me and let's continue to protect the rights of women to have a fair playing field and maintain the integrity of girls' sports. Thank you.
These women. I'd just like everybody to just give these incredible ladies a round of applause.
Stand there for a little bit. Let's hear those all again. Nice.
The swimmers are not available for comment at this time, however, other speakers are that were here today. I'd like to invite the parents and teammates of these girls, grab a sign, come up on stage for a group photo with some of the speakers.
Colin, can I have you grab some signs from the very